All right, hello everyone. So today for our first tutorial, I want to talk about project 1, which is the wire project. For project 1, you're going to use a couple of gauge wire to make a object. I want you to try to emphasize motion in your piece in some way, whether it's an abstract object blowing through the air, a person dancing, a creature of some sort jumping or following along with the teachings of Muybridge, trying to make something still seem like it has motion. So we're going to use for this tutorial a couple of different gauges of wire. We've got 18 gauge wire here, got a couple of them, I need the same. I've got 20 gauge wire here. This 20 gauge wire is thinner than the 18 gauge wire, so it will be used for exterior structure. So I'm going to go ahead and start by cutting a piece of the thicker wire, because I'm going to begin by making the frame in the same way you would with a building. You would want the structure first, and then the form and skin around it. So some tricks: if the wire is all bent up, you can run it along the edge of a pencil and it straightens it out. And you can do this to control the form. So once we have the wire kind of shaped the way we want, we start laying it out. And you can use some sketch paper and do a couple of sketches of whatever object you are planning on doing. And I'm just going to do something abstract, like a flowing think about the gridded structure here. And I'm just going to do this abstract thing because I don't want to influence you too much. And then points of connection. So I'm going to have thicker structure out here in the frame, thinner over here. So knowing how to make a basic plane, you can make almost anything. Then I can actually take my wire and line it up on top of my drawing and see how the form is, if it's nice and straight the way I want it to be, if I need to tighten it up some. And I do it about the same scale as what I have drawn. And another thing to consider in your design is try not to use too much wire. If you're using too much wire, you end up and have to go back to the store. So think about how much material you have and stick with that. So I'm going to go ahead and peel this end up here and cut with my nippers. And then I'm going to come over here and straighten this out a little bit more with my pencil. It can be very meditative. Kind of. All right. So I would keep doing that if this was not a time-sensitive process, just to get it completely straight. Line it up. We'll pull out another piece. Try not to overuse. Use my finger, and then don't cut your finger. Okay. Remember also, when you're cutting this wire, it is like crimping it down, and it makes a really sharp edge. People do cut themselves on that, so be careful. All right. And again, I would straighten this out with a pencil beforehand. Okay, I'm going to make 2 more of those pieces, and then I'll come back when I'm doing the crossbars. Alright, so now I've got kind of the pattern I've already drawn here. I've just got to close off these two ends, and I wanted to try to show you some examples of ways you can wrap to make the ends tie together. So I'm going to just use a straight piece over here, and I'm going to attach these to that straight piece. So I'll take this, begin to turn it into a little hook, and then put that hook over the top, and then close it out. Whoop. I might have made too little of a hook. So I'm trying to do this by hand, and I never would. I always use my helping hands. Which you can see, you can do it, and then it just straps to it like that. And if you make it a little bit longer curl, it'll be a little bit stronger curl. Okay, so I'm going to keep doing that until I get all of them set up, and I might even just grab my helping hands here. Watch out. Just to hold some of it together. And so these are great just for 3D design. This is actually a different thing. This is for spray painting little parts. But if I take my object here and I put it in these little clampers, it's good for soldering too. It'll hold those for me. You guys probably don't have that. I'm sorry. You saw that I could do it without it, but it does make it easier. Okay. Onto there. Clamp. All right. Okay, so I'm going to do that to both sides, and I'll come back to you once I got all of these on, and we're going to start putting the copper wire on. Alright, so this is the second side. I've got them tied around here. And one other thing you want to do is, so these ends don't fall off, I've got to bend this end. Boom. I'm going to bend this other end around, just holding things in place. Okay. Alright. So now you've got that kind of undulating shape we drew earlier, and we'll just kind of create that wave form the way we want. And then we're going to lay the copper wire on top of it. Okay. And you can always clean up too later, you know, make these lines a little bit straighter. Even just taking, if you've got a bunch of really thin wire, you can wrap it around in circles around this stuff. It makes it look really good. You could even take some paper mache and wrap it around there, or spray paint it. There's all kinds of stuff to do that you can kind of add some visual interest. All right, so I'm gonna start with the copper here, and I'm gonna cut a little longer than I think I need because I'm gonna wrap it in a couple of places. So go ahead and put it back in here. If you're noticing that things are kind of falling off, you might need to wrap things a little bit more. And this metal that I'm using is a really fragile metal, so I can break it easily. Just trying to do our best with the materials, because no material is perfect. All right, I drop my copper. Yeah, I'll just take another piece here. Okay, so I'm going to start, and I'll have a little bit of a longer piece. It makes it easier to wrap without cutting my fingers. twice. I'll go over this time. Just kind of like weaving it. And then this one right there. And you can see I'm going to run out before it reaches all the way over. So then might just make these two a little tighter together. Just like that. Sometimes when things go wrong, you just do your best to fix them, and then you might have to come back and do something else to it later. So yeah, and then I would just keep going this full length and fill it in with this copper to create kind of a plane. And then I could bend that plane into different shapes, or you could think of this as just a part to another object that you might have wanted to make smaller. Because again, remember, don't run out of materials. So this is one way of doing it. Another way, if you want to create more like quick, springy type shapes, cut a piece of wire here. And then you can grab a hold of it, wrap it around the ends of the needle nose pliers, pull it out. And that's good for like making little eyes, or, you know, even doing longer ones and making portions of the limbs. I wouldn't recommend making like the entire body out of this. It gets a little too chaotic. If you look at some of the examples, I feel like it's not quite the best if it's all over the place. And that, you know, usually if you vary your technique, it makes things more interesting anyway. So you can imagine, like, if this was even a dress or something, I could put this on like patterns. So you just gotta kind of figure out, and if you use different shaped things, like, oh, let me see what happens if I wrap it around the ruler here. You know, you get, of course, a varied size. So wrapping is another way of making pretty cool stuff. So wrapping and clipping and making the joints stick together, it can be a little bit frustrating, but if you find the right zone, it almost becomes meditative. All right, well, you can tell I probably want to keep playing, but I'm gonna just stop it right there. That should give you a few different ideas of how to control your wire. All right, thank you very much.